Deborah turned the pages slowly, each photo tugging at a forgotten corner of her heart. There she was, 6 years old, her hair in uneven pigtails, standing ankle-deep in the water at Beechwood Lake. Beside her, Mary held her hand, older, steadier, with that same patient smile she always had even when Deborah had splashed her deliberately. The next photo showed their father, lifting them both into his arms, the sun glimmering off the lake behind him. Deborah felt a sting in her chest. He had passed away not long after that picture was taken. Somehow, those summers had frozen in her memory, suspended in a time before bitterness crept in. Her fingertips lingered on the image. This lake, she whispered to herself. I always said I wanted a house there someday. As she turned another page, her breath caught. There, displayed across 2 glossy pages, were photographs of a stunning lakeside cottage, white walls trimmed in blue, wide windows reflecting the water, and a broad deck overlooking the shimmering surface of Beechwood Lake. It was exactly how she'd described her dream home since childhood. Every detail was perfect, down to the white wicker chairs on the porch. Beneath the photos was a sealed envelope. Inside, Deborah found a real estate contract and a gleaming key tied with a navy ribbon. Her eyes widened. The contract clearly stated, owner, Mary Wilson. But there was a handwritten note in Mary's familiar cursive, neatly tucked inside. To Deborah, the lake house you've always dreamed of. Congratulations on your new beginning. With love, Mary. Deborah's hands began to tremble. She read the words again, scarcely believing them. Is this real? She whispered. She checked the date on the contract, signed last year. Mary had bought the cottage a year ago. She must have tried to give it to her at the baby shower, hidden inside that album. The very album Deborah had mocked, discarded without a second glance. Her throat constricted. The room blurred around her as tears welled up, spilling down her cheeks. Mary had done all this for her. And Deborah had thrown it away. The walls seemed to close in. She sank into the sofa, clutching the album against her chest as her baby kicked softly inside her belly, as if feeling her turmoil. Her breath came in shaky sobs. All these years, she had looked down on Mary, belittling her career, her choices, her simple life. She had called her plain, had mocked her small apartment, had told others Mary was the artistic type who'd never really make it. But Mary, she had only ever wanted love and peace between them. Deborah's heart broke under the weight of it. With trembling fingers, she reached for her phone and dialed her mother. Mom? Deborah's voice cracked. I did something terrible. Deborah? What's wrong? Is it the baby? Carol's voice immediately rose in alarm. The baby's fine, Deborah said, trying to steady her breathing. It's Mary. Mom, I was awful to her. You don't understand. I just found out what was inside that album. It was a lake house. A whole lake house she bought for me. The other end of the line went silent. For a long moment, Carol said nothing. Then, in a voice soft and trembling, she finally spoke. I was awful too, she admitted. We both were. I always favored you. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only hurting her. We shouldn't have treated Mary that way. Mother and daughter shared a long silence, each lost in her own guilt. I have to call her, Deborah said suddenly. I have to apologize. She immediately dialed Mary's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. Mary, it's me, she said through tears. I saw the album. I saw everything. Please call me back, please. Hours passed. No response. Deborah called again, and again. Finally, desperate, she called Richard at work. Something's wrong, she said breathlessly. I can't reach Mary. Richard's calm voice came through the receiver. Take a breath, Deb. I'll call her office. When he called back an hour later, his tone had changed. They said Mary's on a week's vacation. No one knows where she went. Deborah felt her chest tighten painfully. She's gone, she thought, and it's my fault. That night, unable to sleep, she opened the album again. On the very last page, there was a message she hadn't seen before. It was written beneath a photograph of the lake house's interior, the cozy fireplace, the nursery room Mary had designed herself. To Deborah, I hope this cottage will be filled with laughter, love, and light. May your child grow up surrounded by nature and peace, the kind of peace we both once dreamed of. With all my love, Mary. Deborah sobbed quietly. Her sister, whom she had scorned, humiliated, and envied, had still chosen to love her without condition. Days turned into weeks. Deborah searched everywhere: Mary's apartment, her office, even called her close friends, but no one knew where she'd gone. She left voicemails every night. "Mary, please, I'm sorry. You were right about everything. Please come back. I just want to see you." Sometimes she wrote letters and slipped them under Mary's apartment door. Sometimes she sat in her car outside, clutching the album, whispering to herself, "Come back, please." The bitterness she once carried had turned to a deep, aching regret. Her mother changed too. Carol began to visit Mary's company website, studying her daughter's designs: modern, warm, full of life and color. For the first time, she realized how extraordinary Mary truly was. "We never gave her the credit she deserved," Carol said over the phone one evening, her voice heavy with remorse. "She was always the stronger one." Deborah nodded tearfully. "All this time, I was so busy competing with her, I didn't see how much she loved me." "Maybe that's what real love is," Carol said quietly. "Love without conditions." A week later, Richard returned home with news. "There's a charity gala next weekend," he said, "at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. I checked, Mary's listed as one of the event sponsors." Deborah's heart leapt. "I have to go." Richard hesitated. "Deborah, your due date is in 2 weeks. "I don't care," she said firmly. "I can't wait anymore." The museum was bathed in golden light that Saturday evening. Elegant music echoed through the marble halls as artists and patrons mingled under chandeliers. Deborah entered slowly, her mother and Richard supporting her. Her dress hugged her swollen belly, but she walked with determination, scanning the crowd. Then she saw her. Mary stood near a display of paintings, laughing with a group of young artists. She looked radiant, confident, finally at peace. "There she is," Deborah whispered, her throat tightening. As they approached, Mary's smile faded. Their eyes met across the room, and the air seemed to freeze. "Mary," Deborah said, her voice trembling, "please, can we talk?" "This isn't the right place," Mary said softly, glancing around. "My clients are here." "Just 5 minutes," Deborah pleaded. Reluctantly, Mary nodded. They stepped into the quiet lobby. Deborah took a deep breath, and then, suddenly, she sank to her knees. "Deborah, what are you doing?" Mary cried, reaching out. "I have to say this," Deborah said through tears. "I was a terrible sister. I never appreciated you. I mocked you, hurt you, and you still tried to give me everything I ever wanted. I don't deserve your love." Carol's voice broke in, trembling. "And I was a terrible mother, Mary. I favored Deborah because she was fragile, and I thought you'd be fine, but you needed love, too. I see that now." Mary stood still, her hands shaking. The years of silence, pain, and resentment hung between them like a shadow. After a long pause, she said quietly, "I sold the cottage." Deborah froze. "You, what?" "I thought it was better that way," Mary said, her voice breaking slightly. "After that day, I couldn't bear to look at it." Deborah's tears flowed harder. "You can sell the house, Mary, but please don't give up on me. What I really want isn't the lake house, it's you, my sister." Mary stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she stepped forward and embraced her. "Trust isn't built in a day," she whispered, "but maybe we can start." That night, the sisters, their mother, and Richard sat together in the museum cafe for hours, talking, truly talking, for the first time in years. The past was painful, but each word was a step toward healing. Months later, when snow blanketed Boston, Mary opened her apartment door on Christmas Eve to find Deborah, Carol, and baby Lily at her doorstep. "Merry Christmas," Deborah said softly, holding out the little girl wrapped in pink. "We came to spend it with you." Mary smiled, eyes glistening. "Merry Christmas, sis." The 3 women gathered by the fireplace, the glow of the fire reflecting in their eyes. Deborah opened the final gift of the night, a beautifully restored photo album, now filled with new pictures and a deed to the renovated lake cottage. "I never sold it," Mary said with a gentle smile. "I just remodeled it. For you, for Lily." Tears streamed down Deborah's face as she hugged her sister tightly. This time, She didn't let go. Outside, the snow fell quietly over Boston, covering the past, blessing the new beginnings inside that warm apartment, where love, forgiveness, and family had finally found their way home. The Lake House of Forgiveness. Photos of Beechwood Lake filled the next few pages, glistening blue waters surrounded by towering pines, sunlight reflecting across the ripples like liquid glass. Deborah's fingertips brushed across the glossy paper. "This lake," she whispered, her voice trembling. She could almost smell the wildflowers that grew near the shore, hear her and Mary's laughter echoing across the water as their father threw stones to see who could skip them farther. "When I grow up, I want a house by the lake," she had once said, splashing her feet in the water. Mary had smiled at her then, promising, "You will." Now, staring at the photos, Deborah turned the page and froze. There it was, a stunning white cottage with blue window frames, a wraparound deck, and wide windows overlooking the glistening lake. It looked exactly like the one from her childhood dreams, the one she had described countless times to Richard. But the next page made her heart stop. There, neatly placed, were real estate purchase documents and a shiny silver key. The contract read, "Owner, Mary Wilson." And beneath it, in Mary's gentle handwriting, "To Deborah, the lake house you've always dreamed of. Congratulations on your new beginning." Deborah's hands shook, her throat tightened as tears blurred her vision. Mary had bought this for her. She checked the date on the contract. It was from the previous year. All that time, Mary had carried this secret. She had prepared that handmade album as a loving surprise, and Deborah had thrown it away in front of everyone, laughing. The weight of realization crushed her. Her chest ached so deeply she had to grip the sofa for balance. For years, Deborah had mocked Mary, belittled her job, her modest life, her quiet confidence, yet Mary, despite it all, had chosen to give her the most selfless gift imaginable. She covered her mouth as tears fell freely. "What have I done?" The baby inside her stirred, a small, innocent reminder of the new life growing within, and of the sisterly love she had carelessly destroyed. Deborah fumbled for her phone, dialing her mother. "Mom," she gasped between sobs, "I did something terrible." Carol's worried voice came quickly. "Deborah, what's wrong? Is the baby?" "The baby's fine, but I hurt Mary." Through trembling words, Deborah explained everything: the photo album, the baby shower, the house, the key. Silence. For a long moment, Carol said nothing. Then, her voice came small and heavy. "We were both terrible, weren't we?" "Yes," Deborah whispered. "All she ever did was try to love us." Mother and daughter stayed on the phone, neither able to speak. Their guilt hung like a shadow between them. "I need to find her," Deborah finally said. "I need to make things right." She called Mary again, no answer. Her texts went unread. Calls to her apartment went straight to voicemail. When she reached out to Mary's office, they said she had taken a personal leave. No one knew where she had gone. Deborah sat by the window that night, the album open in her lap, tears staining the pages. "Please come back, Mary," she whispered to the quiet room. Over the next several days, Deborah searched everywhere. She visited Mary's apartment, slipped apology letters under her door, even asked her neighbors if they'd seen her. "I'm truly sorry," one letter read. "You gave me love, and I repaid it with cruelty. Please let me fix this. I want to be your sister again." Each day, her remorse grew deeper. The bitterness that had once ruled her heart was melting, replaced by a painful clarity. "Mom," she said one evening, her voice raw from crying, "have you ever realized how unfair we were to her? You always defended me, even when I was cruel." Carol sighed. "I know. I used to think I was protecting you, but now I see I was just hurting her." For the first time in years, both women cried for the same reason: regret. A week later, Richard returned home with a glimmer of hope. One of Mary's clients mentioned a charity gala next Saturday at the Museum of Fine Arts. He said, "Mary is expected to attend." Deborah's eyes lit up. "Then that's where I'll go." "But your due date?" "I don't care," she said firmly. "I have to see her." That Saturday night, the museum shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers. Guests in evening gowns and tuxedos mingled beneath the art-filled halls, laughter echoing softly. Deborah entered with her mother and husband by her side, one hand resting protectively on her large belly. "Can you see her?" Carol whispered. Then Deborah spotted her, across the hall, radiant in a sleek black dress, laughing with a group of young artists. Her sister looked confident, serene, free. "There she is," Deborah breathed. When Mary turned and saw them, her smile faded, the color drained from her face. "Mary," Deborah called softly. The air between them grew thick with tension. Mary's first instinct was to step back, but she didn't. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said quietly, her voice steady but guarded. "Please," Deborah pleaded, "just 5 minutes." After a long pause, Mary nodded and led them to the quiet museum lobby. There, beneath a marble statue, Deborah did something no one expected. She sank to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks. "What are you doing?" Mary cried, startled. "Stand up. You're pregnant." "I won't," Deborah sobbed. "Not until you forgive me." Mary froze. Guests passing by pretended not to stare. "I threw away your gift," Deborah choked out, "and with it, your love. You gave me the house I'd dreamed of my whole life, and I treated you like you were nothing. I was jealous, cruel. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, let me try to be your sister again." Mary's lip trembled. Carol stepped forward, eyes glistening. "And I was a terrible mother. I favored Deborah, ignored you, criticized your choices, when all along, you were the strong one. I am so sorry, Mary." For a long time, Mary said nothing. Her eyes welled with tears she refused to let fall. Finally, she spoke softly. "I sold the cottage," she said. Deborah's breath caught. "You sold it?" Mary nodded. "After that day, I thought it was meaningless to keep holding on to something you didn't want." Deborah's heart shattered. "Then I've lost everything, your love, your trust, and that house that meant everything." Mary's tone softened. "You haven't lost me, Deborah, but it'll take time. Trust takes time to rebuild." "Then I'll spend the rest of my life rebuilding it," Deborah promised. Mary looked at her mother and sister, both crying, broken, but genuine. Then, slowly, she reached out and helped Deborah to her feet. "All right," she whispered, "let's start again." That night, in the museum cafe, they sat together for hours, sharing old memories, tears, and quiet laughter. The ice that had divided them for years began to melt. When the evening ended, Mary placed her hand gently on Deborah's belly. "My niece or nephew," she said softly. "It's a girl." Deborah smiled through tears. "We're naming her Lily." Mary smiled, a true, warm smile that reached her eyes. "Lily Kennedy, it's perfect." 6 months later. Snow-blanketed Boston in soft white. In Mary's apartment, a fire flickered in the fireplace, its glow reflecting off the glass ornaments on the Christmas tree. When the doorbell rang, Mary opened it to find Deborah, Carol, and baby Lily. "Merry Christmas," they said in unison. "Merry Christmas," Mary smiled, holding the door open. Lily cooed in Deborah's arms, her wide blue eyes full of wonder. Carol followed behind, carrying gifts wrapped in gold paper. They sat by the fire, exchanging small presents and laughter. 6 months of slow healing had transformed them, their conversations now gentle, their laughter genuine. "I still can't believe you forgave us," Carol said softly. Mary smiled. "Forgiveness isn't a moment, Mom. It's a process, and we're doing it together." After dinner, Mary handed Deborah a large box from under the tree. "What's this?" Deborah asked. "Open it," Mary said. Inside was the same photo album, restored, its pages more beautiful than before. On the last page were new pictures of the lake house, and a new deed of transfer. "I never sold it," Mary admitted softly. "I renovated it, made it brighter, warmer. There's a nursery for Lily." Deborah gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Carol reached for her daughter's hand, speechless. "This house is for your family," Mary said. "But more than that, it's a promise. I don't ever want Lily to grow up in a family divided by jealousy or pride." Deborah embraced her tightly. "Thank you, Mary." Forgiving us more than a house, forgiving us a second chance. Outside, snow continued to fall quietly over the city. Tomorrow, they would visit Beechwood Lake together, 3 generations of women, beginning a new chapter filled with forgiveness, laughter, and love. And for the first time in many years, Mary felt whole again.